Hello, how are you? My name is Winnie Berawa. Welcome to our session on history of feminism. If you're new here, we've been hosting a series pertaining women empowerment and feminism. And if you've not watched our previous videos, feel free to do so that you can flow through and understand how much we've discussed so far. So feminism, as we've said before, has been surrounded by so many myths, misconceptions, and misguided knowledge pertaining to it. So in this class, I want to take us through step by step of how the feminism have evolved since the period it started. So remember to follow through till the end. First of all, the feminism history is actually put in waves based on the century when it started. So I'll start with the first wave in feminism or in the history of feminism, which is said to have begun in the 19th and the 20th centuries, where the suffrage of women was the key feature in the fight for gender equality and human rights. So what the first wave did, it focused on the promotion of equal rights in terms of work contract and in terms of marriage, parenting, and also property rights. It was being said that in that particular time, women did not have right to get into jobs or take job opportunities. Women in marriages did not have a say. In the household, it was the man's say that had the pass. The women were to just follow and do what has been said. The other side was on parenting in relation to things like child custody, who is responsible for the decisions in the homes, and so on. There's also the ability to own properties whereby women did not have these rights. So when the wave of feminism began in the 19th centuries and 20th centuries, the focus was giving women at least the rights to have equal contracts or have wage bills, ability to go to work, own properties, have rights in the marriages and families. So it's being said that this first wave was the one that led to breaking so many biases and oppressions that were surrounding women. So they claimed major rights under women's rights that included right to bodily integrity and autonomy. They fought for the right to be free from sexual violence. Women fought for the right to vote, to hold public office, to at least enter into legal contracts, to have equal rights even in the family law. There was more movement to allow women to go to work, to have fair wages or equal pay, to have reproductive rights, to own properties, and to just go to school. And that is the right to education. So you can see how intense this particular wave was because it was the beginning of feminism. And so there was a lot of issues that needed to be dealt with. And so the list of rights and issues that women focused on here to break the bias and to ensure women empowerment was very diverse. So you can see there was from all the way from body autonomy, free from sexual violence, voting rights, leadership and holding of public offices, legal contracts, equal rights in families, fair pay, reproductive rights, property ownership, all the way to education and going to school. So in this particular period, it say that it seems women did not have much that was going on for them in the community at that time. And so this particular time of this feminism movement, it was to just lay the foundation and the ground that has now led us up to where we are. So this was the first wave of feminism. The second wave of feminism we say to have come in the 1960s. And in the 1960s, this was a continuation of the first wave. However, it focused more on criticizing the patriarchal practices, focusing more on sexual revolution and role of women in society. So what women did here were building up on what has already been established in the first wave and expounding it in the second wave. So they brought in a broadened debate to include a wider range of issues. For example, they now started to speak more on the sexuality aspects, family, domesticity, workplace, reproductive rights, inequalities, and even official legal inequalities. So remember, in the first wave, the movement was working more on groundbreaking on the women issues that were being looked into. In the second wave, there's now looking into these issues critically. That's why we are saying there was critiquing of these patriarchal practices. That we've now established a ground. Women can now at least start going to school. They're starting to have a say in the families. They're starting to have, reproductive rights. But now we need to widen this debate and look at more ranges of issues in these areas that we've looked into. So, for example, in the cases of workplaces, there was a fight for equal pay, but now there was need to look for more or further issues that are surrounding these women, including the safe environment, working environment, looking at the issues of leave and pay. It was now like expanding on the things that has been established at the first wave. So a lot of it also drew a lot of attention to issues around domestic violence and marital rape. This is the season whereby there were also changes in the issues of custody and family laws, and there was also establishment of issues like divorce laws. Remember, in some communities, wife beating and intimate partner violence was very common, but women were not allowed to leave homesteads or to get divorced. So women will just bear in, uh, persevere until some will die or end up in death. Others will have mental breakdown and end up into psychiatric units. But now, for this purpose, there was need to establish the divorce law, custody laws, and so on, to allow at least to have women freedom to exit marital setups that are quite violent, are not friendly or secure for the women. And in this season also, there were now more women joining the workforce, getting paid and taking opportunities in terms of jobs and any related income generating activities. And the third wave of feminism came in the 1990s. So the third wave beginning in 1990s contended more gender roles, that this is due to social conditioning. And so the third wave was actually looking into diverse trends of feminist activities, both as a continuation of the second wave, but as a response to any failures that had occurred previously. So the first wave, you could see, established a base for all the key things about women that needed to be checked on. And in the second wave, there was a build up and a diversification of that was built in the first wave. But the third wave now, they were now looking into society conditioning and things that could not be broken even, or could not be undone, because the society has already conditioned the population to think in such a manner or to believe in such a way. So the third wave focused on diversifying and looking at the different strains that feminists are facing and looking at these failures and respond to them. So maybe we look at an issue, for example, in the jobs or acquiring of opportunities in the workplaces. So the other aspect was to look, have this been achieved? And if they've been achieved, what failures have actually existed that can be made better? you know Maybe, like for instance, or land ownership, we have given women the right to access land or to own land. What aspect of limitations are there that can be undone, or they can be delimited to allow more women to access these opportunities? So that's what third wave did. It mainly looked at the failures or perceived failures and respond to these particular areas in a more vigorous and vehement ways. The fourth wave is the recent one that we're currently in still, which called the existence, that came in from 2012, still treated as an extension of the third wave. But here there was a key use of social media. So in the fourth wave, we are using social media as a tool for speaking against any issues that are affecting women, or promoting justice for women and their rights. So mostly we're being told that the fourth wave has been focusing more on justice for women and opposition for any form of sexual harassment and violence. There's inclusion in terms of intersectionality. The fourth wave has also been emphasizing more on body positivity, trans inclusivity, open discourse also against rape culture in the social media era. So the fourth wave is still talking about, or a movement that is focusing on women issues, but the key focus has been sexual harassment, violence against women, promoting intersectionality, emphasizing on body positivity, speaking against rape. But the tool that has been very strong in this era is the social media. And social media, you can talk of all forms that have been active, from Facebook, YouTube, can talk about Twitter, and all these platforms that women can use to speak and spread the message about gender equality and reducing oppressions against women. However, we're being told that there's also a new wave that is coming in, what we call the post-feminism. And in the post-feminism stage, we are being told that there's a cohort or a population that still reasons that feminism is no longer relevant in today's society and that gender equality has been achieved. That there's no need about speaking about women empowerment, reducing women oppression, yet there's a feel that this agenda has already been achieved. And so people should look at ways on how to balance these aspects, because there's a fear that the men are now endangered or the main gender is now at risk of extinction because women empowerment is overriding or overruling on their rights. So there's that aspect that is coming up. Let me hear in your comment what you think about this on the post-feminism. Is it really true, or is it just a thought or a perception that is cropping up? So this is a summary of the history of feminism. So we've discussed the first, second, third, and the fourth wave. And the last aspect, we're talking about the post-feminism, which is the present state. So in the first wave, this was in the 19th and 20th century, where focus was on the women's suffrage, looking into different rights, that is at least rights to voting, ownership, marriage, custody, and so on. In the second wave, we have the period between 1960s to 1980s, where there was focus on domesticity and sexuality. And the third wave is where we talk about the 90s to 2000, where there's diversity and intersectionality. And the fourth wave, which is now in the 2010s, focusing on the empowerment part, that is women empowerment. And the last part is post-feminism, which is in our present period, that there's an assumption coming up that gender equality has been achieved. And so the fight against women oppression should not be an essential topic or an essential agenda for governments or community, but rather we should look on how we can incorporate men and avoid the risk of having men getting endangered. So thank you so much for staying with me to the end. Remember, or don't forget to subscribe. Give us a comment on what you think about what we've shared, and remember to share this also with your networks. Thank you so much, and see you in our next class.